Hello, my name is Kathleen Flynn from the law offices of Kathleen M. Flynn LLC in Decatur, Georgia. We assist children and adults in obtaining SSI benefits, SSDI benefits, widowers benefits, disabled adult child benefits, child insurance benefits, and service-connected veterans benefits. Today I'm going to be discussing why it's so important that you have ongoing treatment for your mental and physical conditions. And that means seeing as many specialists as you can afford. For example, the Social Security Administration is not going to give a lot of weight to a primary care doctor who prescribes mental health medications. They're looking for a therapist or a psychiatrist who is specialized in that area, and so you have detailed notes addressing your mental health conditions, whereas when you go to a primary care doctor, they don't spend a lot of time focusing on just mental health conditions. They might be focusing on a lot of different conditions. The same thing for physical conditions. If you're in treatment, it carries more weight if you're seeing a specialist for your conditions, like our clients here who go to Grady Hospital. They have different specialty clinics. For example, they have a diabetic clinic. If you have neurological concerns, they have a clinic for that. They have a burn clinic. They have a Coumadin clinic. They have a lot of specialty clinics. So that will make your case stronger. And obviously, if you have different conditions and see more specialists, that would be more compelling. But what I'm going to focus on today is clients who will call me and say they've been in treatment for years but haven't been back in 8 months, and because they can't afford it, and think that would be sufficient for them to prevail in the case. And I always explained an example of a client whose sister came to the hearing, and she explained how they didn't have the transportation and the financial means because she was working to get her brother to appointments. The judge granted the case and said, before he did so on the record, if I do this, will you ensure that your brother gets the treatment? And she said, yes, we would really appreciate the help. Well, the then Appeals Council, which is now called the Office of Appellate Operations in Falls Church, Virginia, reviewed the judge's decision and sent it back and said that there wasn't sufficient evidence to support the decision. And then an exam was recommended with one of their doctors. And I've discussed this on other videos, but you do not want to rely on a consultative physical or mental examiner to make your strongest case, because they don't always do thorough evaluations. But getting back to how important it's to be in treatment, it is just as important to be compliant, because they consider if you're not going to treatment that you're non-compliant. And if you're not taking the medication that's recommended, you're non-compliant. We get calls from people with mental illnesses, and they may end up in the hospital, psychiatric hospital, multiple times, but they weren't taking their medication when they went into the hospital. That's considered non-compliant. There's a Social Security ruling 18-3P, which addresses good cause reasons for not being compliant. And one of them, which we will bring up at the hearing because we deal with a lot of people who don't have health insurance, is that they couldn't afford treatment. The only problem with that is a lot of counties in Georgia provide free physical and mental health treatment, particularly in Georgia. Due to a past lawsuit, each county has a clinic that will provide mental health services free of charge. So we've had some clients and prospective clients tell us, well, they went to this clinic and they had an issue such as they had a high turnover in staff, or they canceled appointments. And we've had other clients who've been satisfied with other free clinics, but they'll say that's the reason that they don't want to go back, and so they won't have a longitudinal history of mental health treatment. Well, that doesn't satisfy the good cause requirement in this ruling. Social Security ruling 18-3P has a list of reasons as to why the judge should find, or the adjudicator should find good cause for you not following prescribed treatment. And we were talking about inability to afford treatment, or it mentions health insurance. I remember doing a couple hearings with the judge who would routinely ask the client, after the Affordable Care Act was passed, did you apply for health insurance under the Affordable Care Act? He didn't realize that there were certain income requirements that had to be met in order for the unemployed claimant to qualify, which he or she didn't because they didn't meet the income requirements, and then he stopped asking that question. So some of the reasons I mentioned that the client might not want to go to a clinic where they've canceled appointments, that might be considered under this ruling as good cause. Not getting along with the therapist is another reason I hear it. I guess it's up to the adjudicator to decide, but you could always ask for another therapist. Or just not liking the facility wouldn't be a good cause reason. So some other reasons why you might not follow prescribed treatment would include incapacity. Now, we've had severely mentally ill clients who didn't follow through with going to the doctor, schizophrenics, for example, or would not take their medication because they thought they were being poisoned. Those reasons are good cause reasons, in my opinion, for meeting incapacity under this list of reasons for good cause for failing to follow prescribed treatment. So some other good cause reasons for failing to follow prescribed treatment would be religious reasons. For example, Christian Science followers may not believe in surgery. There are other religions that don't believe in blood transfusions, for example. And this ruling explains the documentation you need to satisfy that requirement. I'm just doing a brief overview. Some other reasons for failure to follow prescribed treatment would include being afraid of losing a limb, for example, or the consequences of an open heart surgery that would result in death. I had a client who was denied, and they didn't consider, when they denied him, they said he failed to pursue surgery on his limb, and they didn't consider this ruling, and I got them to revisit the case, and then they ended up granting it. And I never forgot that because he gave me his lucky coin. Some additional good cause reasons for failing to follow prescribed treatment would be such a fear of a surgery that your doctor would have to document that your fear is warranted and thus he or she couldn't go forward with the surgery. Or having a prior surgery and not wanting you to undergo an additional surgery. For example, you had a failed back surgery and you don't want to undergo another back surgery. That would be good cause reason for failing to follow prescribed treatment. Additional reason would be you don't want to become addicted to opioids, so you don't want to take that type of medication. And lastly, there are any additional reasons that you want to provide that are documented and satisfy the requirements for failure to follow prescribed treatment. We noticed that when clients are denied at the hearing level, and this is a reason, that usually we can get the case overturned in appeal because the hearing office doesn't always follow the requirements that they need to in order to have a denial based on failure to follow prescribed treatment. And that's more detailed than I want to get into today. So just remember, you need to be in ongoing treatment. You can't have past history of treatment for years and then apply for Social Security and not go to treatment because of any of the reasons I mentioned. You need to be in treatment somewhere. And secondly, you need to be in ongoing treatment. So you don't want to go to treatment and then drop out of treatment. Like I've had some clients during COVID, drop out of treatment, and that's legitimate for a certain period of time, but now we're going into almost 2 years come March, and we have some clients trying to say that they weren't pursuing treatment because of COVID. Well, during COVID, mental health clinics, some of them were providing remote care, by Zoom or whatever software they use, or by phone. Same with physical providers. So just remember, if you're not in treatment or you decide not to take your medication, you have to follow some of the good cause reasons and have proper documentation in order for you not to be turned down by either the adjudicator at the initial or reconsideration level, a DAS in Georgia or DDS in any other state, or at the Office of Hearings and Operations, the hearing level. All right, thank you. I hope you learned something, and stay tuned for additional videos. If you need help or have any questions, we'd be happy to assist you. Our contact information will be at the end of this video presentation. Our number is 404-479-4431. Have a great evening as it's dusk here.